Welcome back to another episode of Capes and Tights. I'm Justin. There's Paul over there, guest host extraordinaire, right? That's what we're gonna call you now.
Is that my official title?
Well, I don't know, because I was trying to figure that out. I was Ben Bishop, regular on the. He's gonna be on the podcast again, and I was trying to think about like who's been on the podcast the most, but it's like you don't really count in that sense. Like I can't count you as a who's been on the podcast the most because of the fact that you're a regular on the podcast. Yeah. Like you're the one that fills in here and there and does cool things. But like obviously I'm the number one, Adam's number two, and then you'd be number three. But then I'm like, what about guests? Like a straight ahead guest on the podcast? Guest. It's probably Ben. I would think Ben's gonna be on for the third time, I believe. And I think that there isn't anybody else. Schmalky's going to be on for his second time here pretty soon.
All right, I was going to ask what
Schmalky. Up there. Schmalky will be up there for a second time. And then Bob's going to be coming on at some point, too, to do his second time. So we're getting into the seconds, but Ben's getting into his thirds. But that's just because he keeps on creating cool shit. So they can't do much about that, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But Paul, if anybody doesn't know, Paul's from Galactic Comics and Collectibles. Hammond Street in Bangor, 547 Hammond Street in Bangor. The best comic book shop in Bangor. You can also buy toys, collectibles, Pokemon cards, and other stuff there as well. But
all kinds of stuff.
Paul comes on. That's where I picked up this Electric Black free comic book day edition.
Woo!
Was at Paul's shop not this past weekend, but the weekend before that.
Weekend before.
We're recording this on the weekend of the 16th or the Monday of the 16th. So if anybody's times are all thrown off because this won't come out tomorrow. It will come out in a couple of weeks, but like,
right.
So we're here to talk comic books again, Paul.
First of all, that.
It's been a while since this is obviously not going to come out right after we were recording this, but you went and saw initial spoiler-free reactions from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I did not like it as much as I thought I was going to.
Okay. That's fine.
Yep.
I let people, There's a problem now with putting pedestals and putting movies as high as they possibly can because of ampness and numbers of trailer views and all that shit too. So
and some of it's hard too because I own the shop, and I explained to a few of my customers because they were like, well, it dropped today. You haven't seen it yet? I'm like, one of the parts of owning a comic store is you don't get to partake in all of the cool comic book shit as much because you're working all the time.
Yes, if movies come out on a Monday, you'd be seeing it every Monday.
Right.
But they come out on a Thursday night and Friday. It's your prime time.
My wife loves going to the movies, so I couldn't go without her. I've got to go with her, and she loves the MCU stuff. So it took me a little bit to finally get there. We got there this past weekend, yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think it could have been built up in the store with the amount of my customer base coming in and talking about it, how much they loved it and everything else. So, my perceptions could be off. But I did not like it as much as I thought I was going to.
We obviously, like I said, I don't want to spoil it because we're not doing a review episode yet, and I don't anybody wants to see it still. I think there is but are you surprised? Again, this is the one thing I like saying to people, that there's some things that happen in this movie that I am surprised were not leaked during filming.
Yes.
There's a couple of things we obviously know about. I mean, it's not spoiler. Professor X or what's his name? What the hell's his name? Patrick Stewart is in this. He's come out and said it. He's on the internet. That's not a spoiler. That's it's free range on the internet right now. Yep. He's come out and said it. It's not someone leaked it. He was out. He was in the trailer. Like it's not like, he's been out there. But there are other things that happened in this movie that I'm surprised I didn't hear about 3 weeks ago.
I was really happy to not hear it. I was impressed with the lack of spoilers for it. And I do get the occasional customers that come in here that would spoil the whole thing. They would tell you everything. By the time you got done, you wouldn't need to see the movie because they're in there acting it out. So I was impressed. No one ruined it for me. I got all the cool surprises in it. But I wouldn't say I was let down, but I don't know. Maybe I would. Maybe I was a little let down. I was a little disappointed.
Well, and just in generic, again, we'll get into variant covers here in a second, but Doctor Strange 1, Doctor Strange 2. What we put in Doctor Strange 1 over 2 or 2 over 1?
Yes, I go 1 over 2.
Okay.
Yep. I like 1 over 2.
I think it is nostalgic in a sense. It's weird to say nostalgic because the MCU is only 15 years old, but that's still 15 years old. And nostalgic in the sense that we get to see a bunch of characters, your Wandas and your Doctor Stranges and Wongs and things like that we get to see a movie with those people in it. Whereas for the past year or so, we've been getting your Eternals and Shang-Chi's and movies with other new
additions to the MCU. I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe I'm not a Sam Raimi fan.
It's all possible. And also people did say, and this is not, like I said, this is not a spoiler to the movie, is that Michael Waldron's writing is a little all over the place. And so there is that, he has that ability to do, he did that in Loki. He did that in this too, the Waldron style and the Waldron things. And it can kind
which
of,
I can be okay with, I think. And I will say there were great comic nods during this, like a lot of terrific references to the comic series, which is awesome to see. Cause sometimes the MCU, I think, lacks that. So I think that was great, but yeah, I don't know if I totally enjoyed the whole vibe of the movie, but
and that's fine. And Taylor, I was like, hey, do you want to go? We should have gone and seen it because we talked about she hadn't seen it because she wasn't able to go because our son was sick. So she's like, I'll stay home and watch the baby while you go out and see the movie. I was like, thankful of that. And I was like, hey, we can just book tickets next weekend if you want. And she's like, well, I'm really excited, but I was really excited to see it with you. And I can just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I'm not a huge fan. Adam and I will talk about this over and over and over again of the theater experience. I just don't think that the number of distractions and number of things that I had to go through to see the movie was not fun. Like I had to go to the theater, park, get out, and the stupid thing is this is a Bangor thing probably, but you buy your tickets online like I did, and you go to the fast track window and it says a big sign on that says out of order. You have to go to the register. So I have to go to the register and stand in line with everybody else. Yeah. I did save my seat, so I was able to get the seats that I wanted, but I had to wait in line with everybody else. I didn't want concessions. And so I was just like, okay, here's my ticket. I go inside, I sit down. People are coughing. People are getting up to go to the bathroom. People are giggling and talking. There's a guy 2 seats over me from every stupid joke that happened. Like, so to me, it was like when I'm at my house, it's just me and my wife. Usually my son's asleep in bed and we're watching a movie. I enjoy that experience far more, especially with the size of TVs nowadays.
So I have the nostalgia feeling of going to the theaters. That was how I grew up. I loved going to the theaters. That was a big thing. My uncle and I, when I was a kid, during the summer, we were going to the movies sometimes every week if something was coming out that, interested us. So I will forever love that whole thing. But I have never been to a movie, I don't think, that had so many adults that couldn't sit for 2 hours without playing on their cell phones.
Yeah.
I swear. I was so irritated. The guy right in front of me. We were the first people there because I always have to have the seating I like.
Yeah.
And we didn't go to Bangor, so we didn't have our seating. So we went in, got our seats like we always do. And the guy in front of me comes in, sits down, and like the whole theater's empty. Like, why are you sitting directly in front of us? And there he is on his phone. And I more than once gently kicked his seat. Had to replace my foot.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
I don't know. It's
and
weird.
they were all over the place like that. I'm like, why did you come here to play on your cell phones? You can do that for free outside. That gets that out of my system.
Yeah, it surprises me. It's just that's the biggest thing. So for me, it's like I'm gonna go see. I went and saw Doctor Strange in the theater because I didn't want it spoiled for me. That's really why I went.
Well, that's the thing. How can you wait now? It's really hard to wait until something drops because it will get spoiled. Like,
and I'm usually, let's be honest. This movie wasn't bad. You didn't like, wasn't your favorite thing, but it wasn't bad.
No.
But I could also have gone and saw like a movie like Morbius in the theaters. And wasted money, time, all that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't bother seeing Morbius in theater.
I watched it last night or 2 nights ago, and I am baffled by how bad it is. Like baffled about how bad it is.
I've got to watch it. We were discussing. So
it's worth watching. Like, you have to see it. It just looks like, and this is what we'll talk about when Adam and I talk about the actual movie coming up here in a couple of weeks. Is it looks like someone wrote a 2.5, 3 hour movie and cut it down to an hour and 45 minutes, but not logically. They just pulled shit out of the movie.
Just yanked it.
And like you went from point A to point B or point A to point C, and you're like, well, where'd it happen to point B?
Right.
And it's just a lot going on in that movie that I'm just like, why did you do it this way? I got new carpet tiles on my floor.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't glue one down, and now it's touching my foot and it's bothering me. But we're not here to talk about movies as much as we want to. We're here about talking about variant covers.
That was a good movie discussion here to start off the podcast about comic books.
Gets the lubricant going in us, right? Usually we have the beer to get us lubricated, but
that's true. I just got coffee.
Yeah, see, I had a coffee. Now I've got nice a non-alcoholic seltzer water going as well. So variant covers. Did you look up anything on history of variant covers at all between when we talked about this or no?
I didn't. I did bring some stuff to look at to explain variants and things like that, and some covers and stuff, but I did not look up like the history of variants.
So why don't we tell you right now, what year did the first official variant cover come out?
Ooh. 92.
Yeah. Its birthday was celebrated the same year as I just did, 1986.
Oh, wow.
It was Man of Steel #1 by John Byrne. They had cover A and cover B on that one. That was the first official
that surprises
book.
me.
Yes. And so what it was that one, and then there wasn't ones until the mid 90s. So the boom of the Spider-Mans and all those other ones. The
first thing I thought of was the Jim Lee X-Men.
Yes, and that is on my list too, because that is the technically still qualified as the #1 highest selling comic book of all time, I believe, right?
Yes, the highest selling and the highest print run.
Yes, 8.1 million copies of that comic book, and that's solely, due to the fact that they had 4 or 5 covers to that one book, so everybody bought all.
I think 4, if I remember. Yeah.
So like you have everybody buying issue 1, buying 4 copies of it. That could easily make your.
It does it.
Basically, they sold 2 million copies of the book. But because everybody bought 4 of them, it becomes 8 million copies. But yeah, so it was 1986, Man of Steel. Both covers were by John Byrne too. It wasn't even by a different artist. He did both covers. He just didn't want. I'm wondering if it was not even a sales tactic. It was one of those things where he came up to DC and was just like, "I like both of these covers that I drew, and I want to release both of them." And they're like, "Well, you're John Byrne, so
we're not going to argue with you."
Right? And so yeah, and then no one else, because if it was a marketing thing, I'm pretty sure it probably would have went over well, and they would have done it before the mid 90s.
Right.
Early 90s, I should say, because X-Men #1 was 91, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was like 91, 92, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to figure out what month it was. It was published in July, so it's a little bit younger than me. Man of Steel, #1. I just wanted to,
throw in. I do not have that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah. So variant cover. So do you want to explain a little bit what a variant cover is, just as now that we're into this discussion?
Yeah. So, and it's funny how you have the term A cover. So your original cover, so I grabbed an A cover off of last week's rack there. There is for anyone watching, your Shang-Chi, and that's your A cover. Now, when you start getting into your variants, you get alternate arts, and I've grabbed some different references here. There is a B cover to DC's. When DC does their variant covers, they make them a cardstock.
Yep.
So the book itself actually has a thicker cover, which is a nice piece to their stuff. I grabbed something that people might recognize as, there's a little Scotty Young action. And then you get into ratio variants and doing things like this called a virgin variant, where there's no writing on the front of it. And this is a ratio variant where you have a 1 in 10. So some books, like the Captain America, I believe this was the 5th cover.
Okay.
Still being a variant cover, but not being something that required a special ordering to get. Versus the Virgin was the 1 in 10 ratio. So they do ratio variants where you have to order X amount of books in order to get one of their variants. So you get your multiple options to covers. And there are plenty of people still on my pull list that only order A covers. You're one of them. You want the A.
I mostly want A, and what it comes down to is, and the cool thing for all of us as collectors or readers or fans is, it gives us the ability to say, oh, Scotty Young doesn't do cover A's for Marvel. He just doesn't do that anymore. He used to do it back in the day. He had some issues like, some like he did some other issues back in the day that he
Rocket and Groot.
He did the cover A, like that was his thing. He was his book. He did everything for it. Whereas now he just does, some of them are just cover B's, but some of them are cover C's, D's, E's, and F's or whatever. Or it's the 1 in 10 variants or whatever. But I get the ability to have a comic book out there of a book that I really want to read, like that new Captain America, but I also get it with the Scotty Young cover, which is cool. I get that with Michael Del Mundo, although he's now seemed like he's graduated to the 1 in 25, 1 in 50 variant, sometimes the 1 in 500 variant.
The 1 in 500 variant.
But yeah, it gives us the ability of fans of an artist to actually get that. Like if they're not the regular series artist, the regular cover artist for that issue or that book, you get the ability to get their art more and gives them more.
Yeah, it definitely creates more accessibility. So a little bit I wanted to cover on being able to read a barcode for this.
Yes.
I thought it would be an interesting thing. For those that don't know, I'm going to try to get the barcode up there so you can see it.
Yeah.
And on the second section of barcode, you have the numbers there. And the way to read this is that is issue number 12. So 1, 2 is your issue number. That's 12. This is first cover in first print. So when you go and you look, sometimes they'll say, like Marvel's big on just slapping the word variant right on there.
Yeah.
But if you go down to the barcode, it says this is issue 1, 5th cover in first printing. So if you're unsure of whether or not you have a variant, because a lot of them don't, DC does not put the word variant on it. No, even on the back cover, it doesn't say variant. So if you're unsure, you can read that barcode and see if you have a variant cover or if you have the A cover.
It might be a little bit harder to see on there, but this is something still in the children number 8 or number 1, issue 8.
Yep.
So it's 01 for issue 1, and then it has the 8th printing on the end of that. So that would be the 8th printing.
And that's the way to tell, to learn if you're trying to learn how to do your prints.
But this is also the reason why a variant cover is badass, because this cover is awesome. This is not cover 1. Like, you know what I mean? This is not cover A. But like you get the ability when you look at it. If you're looking at just popping into the store and seeing what covers are there, a lot of times you'll see people like Saul, for example. I'll give a little shout out to Saul. He'll go in and he'll buy, first of all, he buys like all of them. But more point is that he goes, this is a badass cover. Oh, cover A is, I don't like that cover. Like, it gives you the ability to choose. We do in comic books, one of the things we are able to do as a fan and a reader is judge a book by its cover. And so with variants, it gives you 5, like this one gave you 5 options to what you would want to purchase so that you could either display it like I have in here behind me, or read or have the cover that you really like. It gives the ability to have someone like myself who may buy a lot of cover A's, but actually buys cover B's. And that's where I like to talk, Paul and I talked about off air, which was it benefits you. It benefits the publisher a lot because now I bought $8 of the comic books instead of $4 of the comic books for the same issue. There's literally, after you get past that first cover, the rest of the issue is the exact same innards as the cover A. So it's a pretty cool thing. Not everybody agrees. This is a huge topic, I believe, in the pantheon of comic books of what people agree or disagree with the number of variants. I put a little note down here. Crossover number 1 that came out, 2020 or 21? No, 20.
20, I believe.
Yeah. Had the rough estimate on it, and you can't find actual figures online right now, had over 100 different covers for cover number 1.
Good Lord.
And again, the benefit of that is, I mean, Schmalke had a cover, our buddy Joe Schmalke. Ben Bishop had a cover. So there's like, you know, some of the local artists get to jump in on those things and do a cover. You have your Last Ronins, which I think had 75 covers for issue 1. And
I was going to say, I thought it was 80. Yeah.
Something along those lines with Schmalke. Obviously, Ben had one because he was an artist on it. And then, but then you had like Bob who did 1, and that was it. And so, and so that's the cool things about those things is that, but also 75 covers. It's definitely not a collect them all kind of thing.
Good Lord. I mean, you could try. So Batman DK3 series, and I may have talked about this in a previous one. Yeah. I started collecting those, and that was another one that was super high variant run.
Yeah.
And eventually I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing it. It's enough. And still to this day, when one wanders in here I don't have, I go, well, I gotta get that.
Yeah.
Like I'll add it to the box. I'll put it in there. It's another one at least. Even though I swore I was gonna stop doing it, but I can't help myself. But
I had to stop myself with the Last Ronin stuff because it got to the point where I'm like, oh, cool. Ryan Brown did one. And I'm like, that'd be badass to have. And then I'm like, this person did one. They're a pretty cool artist. I'll stop it. Francisco Matina did one. And I was like, I'll grab that one. I love his artwork. But I'm like, but it has nothing to do with the Ronin. Last Ronin has nothing to do with anything I'm collecting right now. I'll buy his Matina Spawn stuff because he's a Spawn artist to me. So like, to me, that's a cool way to do it. But like Last Ronin now, I think I have to be local artists that I'm actually personally in like connection with, or the original ones, and that's it. I was like, I got to stop myself from buying over and over and over. Crossover, I do have a bunch of them because again, crossover ones that kept like coming up of like, oh, this is pretty cool, and I bought it, and now I'm like, why did I buy that? I have way too many of them.
I've had a few books like that too, where I've gotten through them and said, okay, I probably overdid. I'm sure DK3 I've overdone, but I still to this day throw another one in the box.
But as the years progress, they do get cheaper. And like, for example, crossover, I think I have a bunch of crossover number 1s that are like the 1 in 50 variant that I paid like $4 for or something along those lines. And that's where we talked on the shop on over this week was that they're the 1 in 10 variants. So I can cover this a little bit. You can back me up on it. Is a 1 in 10 variant basically means that Paul needs to purchase 10 comic books of that cover or so that issue. So issue 1 of we had that twig there that we talked about. We showed he had to buy 10 issues of that. You could buy 1 cover A, 9 cover B's, right? And still issues 10. It's 10 issues. It just has to be 10 copies. And then they let you purchase that one for the same price as the rest of them. But what the idea behind it is, it's an incentive to the store to buy more copies, which then gives them ability to take that 1 in 10 variant too and say, I need to purchase 10 copies of this book to sell. So I'm going to be able to charge a little bit more for that one copy because it's an incentive variant. And the same thing comes with the 1 per store variant, which is is one that we talked about before too, which is his store gets 1, period.
That's it.
Down the street store gets 1, period.
Super low print run on those because there's only so many LCSs in the country. And then the other catches to those is that's not a like gift to the store. You still had to have ordered that book in order to get that. So it's not like every box comes with one no matter what. If, the Something's Killing the Children unlockable variants, the 1 per store variants, if you didn't order Something's Killing the Children, you're not getting that cover. So they're never really clear on how many are actually out in circulation, but you got to figure it has to be less than like 4,000.
Yep. And a regular print, a big print run now is you can get the 15 to 20,000 copies of an issue. So 4,000 copies of that. And it's again, if you're in your local area, think about it. If we have regular purchasers of comic books, is you have you in one other shop in downtown Bangor, right? You have your what's his name out by the movie theater. But he doesn't regularly purchase. Like he's a little bit different than the others. So if you think about the two big comic book shops in Bangor, means that the greater Bangor area, obviously you go down to other places, you get more. There was 2 issues of that book, or whatever issue book of 1 per store there would be. There would be you, and there'd be downtown. So if I purchase it, I am one of 30,000 people in the Bangor area that are in Bangor that has this comic book, and no one else can get it unless you purchase it online, and so on and so forth. So I have a few of those. I have the Walking Dead gold foil deluxe #1 that I bought off of Paul. The 1 per store variants as well. So they are cool. But one of the things I will say as a collector of comic books, they don't always hold value like they should. Like there's definitely the 1 in 10s and the 1 in 25s are usually one of those ones that like 1 in 5 different ones you can purchase are like really, really, really valuable. And the rest of them are just, you get a unique cover that no one else has or very limited number of people has.
Right.
I collect 1 in 25s now and 1 in 10s. If I really want that book, they're not going, it's not for the value of the book. I just want that book. I want that cover. Right. I want that cool thing. It's the House of Slaughter #1 that I want. The 1 in 500 variant.
The Michael Del Mundo.
It's a $350 comic book, but I don't want it because it's $350. I want it because it's badass art and it's Michael Del Mundo. So,
and there has to be even less of those considering the size of my LCS.
Yes,
I can't order 500 of a cover. Our max that we have ordered was 50. I've managed to do a 1 in 50 before.
That's Spawn Universe or?
Yes. Yeah. Through the Spawn Universe stuff. We've gone as high as that. Actually, I think in one of the spawns we did over 100. Now that I think back on it, and we were debating at the time of boosting it to 250 and doing the autograph one that Todd McFarlane was doing, but it's just too many books. It's just way
well, that's the thing, and we've talked about this. So there's the benefits and negatives of variant covers. Variant covers are cool because you get many more artists contributing to artwork or to comic books than if you just have one cover. If you have one cover, there's less artists that are involved in projects. To me, art is awesome. So like, let more people get covers. That's cool to me. The other benefit is the publisher sells more comic books, which obviously makes more money, which means they'll continue in business, which is fine with me. So maybe they'll pay their artists more money. The other thing is your LCS could potentially make more money again with the idea that you get an extra copy of a book because you wanted cover A because you want your reader copy or whatever, but you want your cover C because you like the artist in the front.
Right.
The downside is the ratio of variants. I would think that some stores put themselves in some really big predicaments with purchasing too many copies of a book.
I would
they want that ratio, especially with like speculation apps and things like that nowadays. That if they think that the 1 in 50 is going to be a great comic book, it's going to make them, the money they need for the week at their LCS. And so they buy 100 copies. So they get 2 of those 1 in 50s. And then they end up not selling any of the books that they ordered and it sitting there and then losing money on it. I just can't imagine the thought process on that. We've talked, if you're going to buy 24 issues, because you're going to sell at least maybe 15 of them around people's pull lists, and there's another 9 issues to put on the shelf for Wednesday, then you'll definitely up it to 1 if you're going to get that 1 in 25.
Absolutely.
And so but if you're like, I'm going to buy 5 of these, and someone really comes in and says, I want the 1 in 25, you're going to say, well, you can buy 20 issues of the book. And here, I'll even give you the 1 in 25.
Right. I'll toss it in. Yeah. Cause it's funny too. Cause, so I just did my orders yesterday. I do ordering on Sunday, and there's a new book coming out. I liked the premises of it. It sounded interesting. And I double checked, and it didn't have variants. It did have a 1 in 10, but it had no variants. And I'm sitting here going, if there was 2 covers, I might have done 10. I might have done 5A and 5B and then done a 1 in 10 variant. But without that possibility of somebody going, you know what, I'm going to grab a variant of it as well, I'm not going to yank 10 books. So I only ordered 5 of the A's.
Yep.
So it is interesting to consider like what can happen in the print runs and the marketing and all of that if they do a variant cover to it. If you toss that extra one out, it might create a little bit more, kind of a little more interest in the book, or there'd be the possibility of our side of walking into our shop and having more of that book on the shelf, which if you're the writer or the artist on it, you want to see that on the shelf.
Because honestly, for you, if you could buy all your books on Wednesday and sell them all out on Wednesday, you'd be pretty happy about that. But in the same sense, you also have to have stock for someone to want to come in and buy things. And the people who the comic books, when you walk in there and you had some Twigs #1s left over, you're like, but it's also kind of good for that story, because then someone comes in when they miss New Comic Book Day. You came in on a Saturday or the following Wednesday, and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And maybe now they'll be a collector of #2 and #3 and #4. If you're just in and out on your pull list, some books are okay with that. Like some of the books that you buy, like the one you were just talking about, there's 5 issues. You don't know how well it's going to go. Hopefully your pull list buys all 5 of those, and you don't have to worry about trying to keep those stock.
And we're great. And if that's the case, I might order a back order on a couple of them. Because of that being a #1 and keeping interest. That's like having the Twigs. There's nothing wrong with having a little backstock on that, because somebody might come in at issue 2 and then go back to get 1. It happens a lot in here. But it is horrible of a guessing game of what is going to launch, what isn't going to take, and how much is the right number to put in your shop. Because it does obviously eat up a lot of inventory dollars. We're sitting on thousands of backstock issues, and it doesn't take long for them to pile up. You start running out of room, and it's eating up inventory.
And here's the other part about it. So in the speculation market, right? Market, most of those speculation market comic book collectors and people want cover A, because that's the actual book that is being sold.
Usually the one that launches, not always.
But you have 5 issues of a book, and everybody wanted cover A. And then you have 5 issues of cover B, and then that sparks as, oh my gosh, it's the first appearance. Those books will sell, but they're not going to be as nearly as grab. I mean, one person might come in and buy those 5 issues that they were all cover A's, whereas now you're going to be like, well, maybe I'd like a cover B. And so the variant cover does affect that market as well, which again, that's another discussion to have, is the speculation market. But you also sometimes don't get the 1 in 10 variant that you want, like I did in this week. Diamond.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Where was our 8 billion genies?
But yeah, so I can't wait. I haven't even read that book yet, but I told you I think I want to wait until a couple issues are out to read that book. But I got my cover A and my blank covers on that. Oh, there's a blank one. That's another variant you can talk about. We can talk about is
the blank.
I would love to have known when that first one came out. I looked up when the first variant was out, but when the first sketch cover variant came out, I don't think
that had to have been more recent. I would think.
Yeah, I would think within the past 5 years or so. I was probably more than that, but like at least because I have a Secret Invasion. What's that? 2008, 9. I have a Secret Invasion, but it's not a straight up blank cover, which is one that I would love them to get back on. It's got the Secret Invasion logo on the top, and then it's got a black border around the middle of it, and the middle of it is white, so you can sketch on it.
You can sketch on it,
which is pretty cool. So it's still got that whole like it's a Secret Invasion book, but it's got a place for you to sketch on it as well.
I love the Walking Dead ones they did that. I don't know if it was intended as a sketch, but it only has the zombie hands coming up, and the rest of it is like a yellow backdrop of like the sky. And the amount of different sketch covers I've seen in that is so awesome, of like people dropping different characters into the Walking Dead arc, either in zombie mode or non. Like the Ninja Turtles plopped in there and they're like, where the hell are we? And Leo's got the swords out. He's like, I don't know, but we're in for a fight. Like, that is awesome.
I wanted to see if I can find.
And those are really fun. But yeah, your blank sketch variants are an interesting one. For people who don't understand the idea of doing art and getting art on those, I always have to explain to them. They're like, well, why would I want this book that just has a title on it? It's just a white book with a title. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, see, Secret Invasion got a black border around it. It's the Secret Invasion #1. And then I've got, another cool one is like Berserker, where it's red. Yep. So yeah, that's a pretty cool one too.
I have my We Don't Kill Spiders that Joe Schmalke did a cover for me on, and that was a nice purple cover.
Purple color.
And that is awesome. It stands right out.
And those are cool. So you bring it, and it's not just the artists that are normally doing those books that if you want them to do artists on it. I mean, Logan, the person that works for your shop, he likes to do stuff on it. I've done some stuff on him, but you can also bring them. Like I talked to Bob, who's going to do, who's working on a book called Good Boy Paws. So you got to check that out at some point.
Yeah.
But I said, hey man, what do you want to do? It's the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. I'd love to do that one. And he doesn't do either one of those as a regular job. And so it's just he wanted to pick that one out. So I have a Spawn 300 that he did. That's a dog Spawn because of Good Boy Paws.
That's
and
cool.
So which I bought at your shop when you had him signing autographs and
little guest signing in store.
So they have like the variants. They have variants that are in poly bags nowadays. They have variants that are
good Lord.
What my favorite thing about variant covers, Paul, is first of all, I get my Scotty Youngs. That's number one, right? Come on. And then Michael Del Mundo's and so on and so on. But it gives the ability to people to do covers, your favorite artist, even local, the ability to get out there.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll pick out on Ben Bishop for an example. I have a number of Ben Bishop variants that are not books that he was ever attached to in any sort of fashion. Your crossover ones, and he's in a Joshua Schmalke one with the Black Electric Presents book that he did, and he did a Ninjago cover recently, and so it's like. And so you get the ability to have fun and draw things, and it gives your local or more smaller artists the ability to potentially do a variant. But what that has to entail is a lot of times is with you or the local shop, your LCS. Yeah. So you have to actually partner with a lot of those like artists that you're like, they're not drawing from Marvel. How did they get on a book? It's because Paul, for an example, has to sign on with an artist. The artist has to then you have to pay the artist, and then you have to buy all the stuff on the back end and do basically all the work. And most comic book companies will do a store variant if there's a backing for that, and they purchase all the comic books. So if you're invested in the 1 in 300, it's like we're going to do 300 limited copies. You have to buy all 300 copies, and then you have to pay the artist, and you have to pay the fees and the shipping and all that stuff. So all that stuff, if you're as a shop willing to do, and you just find an artist to do the work for you, a lot of times you can bring that to any publisher, and a publisher will be like, yeah, sure. Do you have it number one? Why not? We'll do it.
Right. Yeah, we'll put it out there for you.
They'll make money. They're guaranteed the sales of that book because you have to buy all of the issues. Then it's just on you, and the onus is on whether or not you as your shop can sell all 300 copies. The internet helps now, like with the ability to sell online.
Oh, the reach of that is fantastic now. Yeah, between internet, social media.
But I do think that it's cool because it gives you the ability to artists like Bob, for an example. We keep talking about his Good Boy Paws is his first, foray into actually publishing his own book, and it's not out yet. And so it gives him the ability. He did a Last Ronin, which is pretty badass. He's done some other ones here and there too. That gives him the ability to actually
reach a national stage.
Yeah, and get out there and get his drawing and his art out there and do things, which you're never going to have someone guest write on a book for a store.
Right.
So there is this benefit that it's mostly about artists when you talk about variant covers. There's no variant covers out there that's like, oh, this intro is done by a different person, or like 3 pages in the middle of this book was written by Scotty Young. It's all art.
It's printed off with its own panels blanked for them to do. Like, you're not going to get that stuff. So the cover
actually
the cover sells.
Oh my gosh! Here I got an idea. Genius idea. Print a book that the bubbles are all empty,
and allow someone to write them in every time. There you go.
Anybody can write their own issue of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yes. Bubbles are already set up. Everything's all good to go. You just have to write in your own story. And then you send in your story, and you might win a contest to write the next book.
Marketing genius here.
Oh, it also comes with a blank cover, so you can get an artist to do the cover for you too.
You got to copyright this whole idea first. You heard it here first.
It'd be awesome. Here's the deal. It's not an established book at all. It's a book that is created with no storyline, just artwork. So there's a synopsis that an artist has that had to do all the artwork in it, but then you have to now write the story on your own.
Just a miniature one shot. And
then there's no actual words. You can't read this book. This book is only read if you write it.
There we go.
We'll get an artist in on this. Let's get Bob or Ben or Schmalke.
Get one of these guys.
Black Caravan can put this book together.
Oh, there we go.
We'll do it.
Make Black Caravan.
Someone could do a slapstick, stupid comedy out of it. Someone could do a horror book out of it. You could do like your Scream versus a Scary Movie. Yeah. So like you could do like a horror book, but someone does it as stupid funny.
Right.
Ugh, I got it. This is $1 million idea.
Yeah, get it down on paper now.
Yeah, right. This is a horrible idea. But and then you have, so we talked about the number of variants, 75 variants or 80 variants for Last Ronin. And they did variants for all of them. Actually, I have it's hard to see, but this bucket here.
Yeah.
This is 5 issues of Last Ronin. That's all the second printings, third printings, fourth printings. The
how many are in there roughly? 40, 50?
Yeah, somewhere around there. And most of them have Ben's covers on them. And I still don't even have my 5 issues that are supposed to come from Ben Bishop for issue 5. So I only have issue, and I actually do have 2 issues of number 1 or number 5. But they're actually not even in there right now. They're over there because they haven't been bagged or boarded because they're stupidly wrong size. But so you have your variants, your 75 variants, and then you have crossover with 100 variants. You talked about, we talked about X-Men number 1. It was one of the original ones with multiple variants and so on. Yep. But then you have other books. There was a whole company that was started that flopped, but we'll talk about that in a second. Is Saga, for an example.
Yeah.
When they came back out with, they said no variants, no second printings, no.
It was like flat out in the release information. Like there will be no variants, no BS.
It's like, just that's it. Cover A.
And as an LCS, I had a customer come to me with the first Saga is going to be coming back. Like, hey, what are the ratios like? Put me down for 25. If it's 1 in 25, I'll order 25 to get that. Or is it going to be a 1 in 50? Is it going to be a 1 in 100? And when I went to him and said, hey, so this is literally direct from them, like no variants, no bullshit, not happening. I'm like, hey, do you want any? He's like, no.
Yeah.
Nope. Never mind. So, it does affect your releases on these. But
I
can appreciate their side of it. They want it to be about the story. They want it to be about that, not about collecting it. So but
I didn't buy.
Why shoot yourself in the foot that way?
Cover A of Captain America: Symbol of Truth. I just didn't buy cover A. I only bought the Scotty Young cover this week because that's what I wanted. So it does make some sense because I could have done that with the Saga issues that they created Saga. This is the cover they wanted to put on it, and this is the story they wanted on the inside. And I only bought cover B. It's the secondary cover. It's not the way that you should have bought in the original artwork and the original thing. So I understand that in a sense. It's a similar thing to me that like Spawn's still $2.99. Like they just want it to be the way they created it back in the day, and so it's $2.99, still $2.99.
It's impressive. It really is.
They're better quality comic books, like physical paper than
many of the other
$5 book.
Yeah, they're a nice hard cardstock cover. They're nice.
But then there was a company that foreshadowed their trajectory in the world with their name, and that was Bad Idea.
It's such the weirdest marketing thing I've ever heard of.
So they went to select comic book stores, right? They didn't go to all of them. And they also did no variants, no second printings, no digital. So you had to buy cover A on the day it was released from limited number of stores.
1,000 or less, maybe?
Yes.
I can't remember how many LCSs were involved in this. But yeah, it was a pre-select. They had the number and said that is the only amount of stores we're going to sell to. And the closest one to us, I believe, was either New Hampshire or Massachusetts.
And guess what? I went online and found a 9.6 ENIAC, which came from Bad Idea.
Yep.
$40. 9.6 graded. $40, right? That was a book people were paying hundreds of dollars for raw on eBay because they were like, oh, there's only 1,000 of them. There's no variants, no second printings, no nothing. Yeah, $40 graded.
Limited LCS available. Now,
so
because like original idea of it, I think caught interest, but then it had no standing. Like there wasn't going to hold the ground. And the crazy part was they got some pretty major name artists and writers involved in that printing, and in all that stuff. But and I got heat from a few customers like, well, how come it's not here? I see it, and people get on Key Collector every week and they walk in. How come you don't have this? I said, I wasn't even an option to order it. I'm not allowed to. And it was the whole thing was a solid gimmick. Like,
yes,
and they sold the company.
Yes. And then, but that I don't think they're doing much anymore anyway. Because I listened to a podcast, Off Panel podcast, to give a shout out to Off Panel. They had a sponsorship from Bad Idea. Like one of their sponsors was they paid for a year or two or something like that up ahead, or they pay monthly and they're still paying. And he does his little commercial break and he goes, "Yeah, this segment is supposed to be brought to you by Bad Idea, but they're no longer a company, and they're still paying. So I guess I give them this spot. And back to the show. And like, it's just the funniest thing. Cause
thank you for following bad idea comments. They don't exist anymore.
Exactly. So it was, I can see the idea about doing it. If you did it, like we have the technology nowadays with Ticketmaster and all those things for like virtual waiting lines, like they do for San Diego Comic-Con and stuff like that. Like, why wouldn't we just release it as bad idea online, self-distribute the comic book, and make it so that you had to go in and get in line and order the book online. They ship it to you. Because I also felt like it was a middle finger in your face that you're a local comic book shop that works hard and tries to do these things, and you don't even have the ability to buy it because you're not one of the select few.
The select few, the pre-selected. Cool. Yeah.
And if they did it, you were registered with Diamond. You're registered with Diamond, and they pick a name out, and each comic book. So they have, obviously you wouldn't want an issue 2 to be a different store. So the person who got issue 1, but like ENIAC comes out, and then there's, Joe Schmo's comic book comes out the next one. They pull a random name in a hat. Oh, look at that Galactic comic thing. Collectibles gets it in Bangor, Maine. And then you get a chance for the next one. It was a lottery of sorts that comes from the Diamond database or wherever you can submit online. I have a shop. Here's my information. To verify. That's a little different because it spreads it out across the country and gets you the ability to do it and so on and so forth.
Travel your LCSs to check it out.
And maybe you would buy 50 copies of it because you're like, okay, I'm the only one in the New England
that gets it. So why not? Yeah.
But
they're advertising for you. But yeah, it didn't work that way. And to think, like, realistically, they were giving the middle finger to the entire state of Maine.
Yeah.
Like, nope, doesn't matter. There's plenty of LCSs in the state of Maine, and nobody was allowed to order it. And like I said, I don't remember if it was New Hampshire or if it was all the way to Mass before you could get a copy.
Like, it's all the way to Mass. It's still not that far, but still,
it's not that far.
But it's still 4 hours from us. So
it's absolutely
for a book that, again,
you're now multiple states away to find one, and it's obviously going to be like that across the country. Like,
buy it for a profit, and you realize that you sent it out to CGC and it came back and it's worth less than what you paid for it, and the CGC
and graded it.
It's funny. I almost bought it because I'm like, this would be like one of those things that are like $40 free shipping. Like, it's one of those things that's like, this is a story to have 20, 30 years from now about how crazy this idea was. And I have an issue of it, not because I want to sell it, not because it's valuable or anything like that. And honestly, I still own a couple. I actually just got an alert from it. Tilray, which is a weed stock. I bought it for $20 a share. It's at $5 a share now. I only bought 2 shares. It was $40. I'm riding this into the ground. At this point, I don't care.
Might as well in this stage,
like,
right?
It is what it is. So like the same thing with that. I just ride it into the ground. I'd probably display on the wall with a light around it. It says this is a stupid bad idea, and then move on. But I didn't, and I would rather, because this Something's Killing the Children #1 was also $40 graded, and so I was like, well, I'd rather have that. But then I also said to myself, it's also probably not worth that because that book's like a $6 book. But like, still, it's I can only buy so much, Paul. I only buy so much.
I know, and I saw your order this week.
Yes.
It's a big order. Yeah.
It is. But yeah, so the variant covers make it really cool. Variant covers are awesome to me for like milestone issues. You're when Spawn hit 200, 250, 300. Those are really cool because you can, like, as a company, you can say, I want, Tony Moore, I want Scotty Young, I want, Ben Bishop, I want Joseph Smolke. I want these artists to be my artists for the 10 issues of variants that I'm coming out with for this special 300 issue of it, or 10th issue, or 15th
number
issue.
900 ASM is coming up. Amazing Spider-Man is going to hit 900.
And you'll see.
Legacy.
Do you know who the cover artist on that is? You don't have to tell me if you don't have to.
I don't yet. No.
I would guess there's like a Romita Jr. cover.
Oh, I'm sure.
And like, I'm guessing some of these old school artists that are still drawing, or maybe even come out of the woodworks to have done.
I'm sure Mark Bagley has one. Yep. Greg Land, I would imagine.
So you could just go back to the idea of having someone who drew the issue early on to do one, and that would be
you could go back through all the previous Spider-Man artists that are still with us and have them do a cover.
How about a Scotty Young manga cover, because he did a manga.
The manga Spider-Man.
Yeah. Maybe we should do that one of those. That'd be cool. I'd love to see that go back on that.
I think I'd have to own, one of those, shockingly.
Well, you didn't buy the one I showed you this morning, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I didn't. That's true.
You have a chance. I have a copy, and
well, if you bring it in, I'm sure I'll buy it, but that's not the point.
If it's in front of me, it's different. Okay. If I haven't ordered it online, it's different.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I don't think they're going anywhere. Do you? I mean, do you think variant issues are here to stay?
I don't think so. It's funny because I think the customer base that I see in our shop that comes in and, might complain about variants are normally old school collectors that are, older than our age group. They're in their, late 40s, 50s, 60s, and they grew up with the single releases, and for whatever reason, it annoys them that there are multiple covers out. I think the better part of my customer base does what you said. They pick and choose. I really like this cover, so I ordered it. I really like that cover. I don't even collect floppies. I only collect trade paperbacks. But I collect Scotty Youngs. So I always say there's sort of like sports cards in that, like, I'm gonna seal them up and take care of them, and besides pulling them up to look at them again, I'm never gonna see them. They be put away, and I'm never gonna read them.
Yep.
I don't care what they are. I only care about the cover.
Yes. So and that's why we can judge a book by a cover. We literally can. This is one of the few things in the world that you actually can judge a book by a cover, because that's what sells you on it. I don't care. I love artwork a lot. I love writing. There's some of the best writers in the world have been comic book writers. I love, we talked about The Last Ronin. Really, really big fan about The Last Ronin coming out.
I just finished the run.
I'm a big fan of Electric Black, things like that. The writing is really good. But guess what? I would not have purchased any of them. Okay, let's remove out of the characters of our comic book artists that I'm actually fans of.
Right.
There's books that I would not purchase if it wasn't for the cover being badass. And so it sells.
The Captain America run you weren't going to buy if you didn't have a Scotty Young cover.
Yep.
And there are plenty of chances where I display covers and a customer comes in and buys it because they like that cover and that gets them interested in the story. Maybe the A cover wasn't the truly best artwork for that book. And having your variant, that's what appealed to someone. The variant gave a better description maybe of what was happening on the inside or whatever. It caught their eye.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I think Marvel is one that, to me, a lot of the A covers are more bland, and the variant covers would catch my eye more. I'd be more likely. Okay, this past week we just had the Banner Wars that's starting between Thor and Hulk. The A cover was just Thor on the bottom and Hulk on top, and it didn't interest me at all. The variant covers that I ordered had one of Hulk's fist coming at Thor, or you could have Mjolnir coming at Hulk. And to me, that immediately caught my interest.
Yeah, and here's the deal. You most likely would someone buy both of them.
Right. Oh, yeah. They'd be awesome framed side by side. During the Civil War, I'm a Cap guy. I'm not an Iron Man guy. So I would have gotten like your Cap Civil War covers. So seeing that, I'm a Thor guy. So I'd have, grabbed that Thor cover of him, with the hammer going towards Hulk. So, a perfect example of getting interested because of that variant cover, where just the A cover of Thor and Hulk on the cover didn't spark anything in me.
Yep, exactly. And that's so here's the other thing. I do can art, right, for beer.
Yep.
And you're a beer drinker. Like when you go to the store and you see it,
oh dear God,
in all likelihood, you're gonna pick a can that is attractive to you, and it makes you go, oh, that's pretty cool. If a can's ugly and hideous and like ridiculous, you're like, all in all likelihood, the liquid on the inside, it's also going to be ugly and hideous.
I can't tell you how many beers I have bought purely because of the can art.
And I'm not saying that because the can art's good, the beer's going to be good.
Right.
But it's more likely a good can art is going to include good liquid. And the same thing with comic books. More than likely, a good cover art means that the interior art's going to be good as well. But like,
right.
No, there's no promises here, and there's no guarantees here. I will say.
Yeah, we're gonna get complaints on the Cave Studies podcast.
Yes,
you guys said this was gonna be good. This book was terrible.
No, and there's great stories in books that have crappy art, and there's great art in books that have crappy stories or writing.
And everything's opinion based.
Because I love Spawn's artwork.
Yep.
We'll leave it at that. The one thing I will say that companies can get better at is, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Paul. Be more like DC. And you know this.
Yes.
On the barcodes for DC, and actually other independent artists or companies are now starting to do it too, is they're writing on the barcode the cover artist's name. Cover B, or this is created by There's other ones that say cover B or cover A by so-and-so.
Yeah.
It helps. I would think it helps you when you go to pull someone's list. You can go, oh yeah, that's Francisco Matina, and then bam. It also helps me. I look at a comic book cover. I don't want to have to freaking search the internet to find out who the artist of this book is.
Yep.
And then the inside of those covers, it doesn't even say cover A by whatever, cover B by whatever. For most books, it says cover artist by, and then it lists all the cover artists. So it doesn't even say.
It doesn't even do that. Sometimes it literally lists the original one. It will say original cover by, and then that's it. There is no more, even though there are multiple variants.
And so I don't understand why you wouldn't do that in small letters. You expand the barcode by
credit
white.
Where credit's due to the artist that did that cover. Yeah, I think DC does a great job of that. And I would like to see more printers doing that. I get multiple times where I have somebody message me on my pull list and said, "Oh, by the way, I'll take so and so's cover of this," and now I got to go on Google and look because their signatures are not always visible. If it's an artist I may not be as familiar with, I may not recognize it. So I'm now hunting Google to try to figure out what the hell freaking cover they wanted. Yeah.
Luckily, there is on there. Your regular Marvel variant artists, or regular ones, are your Scotty Youngs and your Peach Momokos. So like those two are very very recognizable variant covers. Yeah. So that helps you a little bit on those. But then there's like the random ones that like your art is really good, but it's very similar to someone else's art. You have to look it up online to figure out what it is. I
love Josh Middleton's work and I love Jenny Frenson's work, but I feel like those were ones that if you put them side by side, could be hard to tell the difference between the two.
Yes.
Saul, we were discussing Saul. Yeah. Saul loves an artist. He collects Francavilla, and I can usually spot a Francavilla. He also collects Rose Besh. Those are both ones that stand out generally, although I did mistake a book when we were looking through stock, and I was like, "Hey, isn't this a Rose Besh?" And he was like, "I don't think so." And we double checked, and he's like, "Boy, it looks a lot like it, but it wasn't. It was a different artist."
Oh, I thought he was gonna get all offended. Sounds like Saul to me to get all offended. What are you talking about?
Saul gets hot real easy. It doesn't take much to get under Saul's skin. I have fun with it. I wind him up.
Yes, me too. And then it was one of those.
But then we have to live with it once we wound him up, which is
well, I was thinking about the fact that I was like, I got them all wound up on Free Comic Book Day, but then I was like, I'm okay because I know I'm leaving at 11:30, so like at least I won't be here for the rest of it. And then he left before me, but I did think to myself, I'm like, I'm gonna get them all wound up. So like 3:00 in the afternoon, Paul's gonna text me and be like, "What the hell did you do? Why did you?
Why did you do this?
Why did you give the kid sugar? Like he's on like."
It's like the grandparents.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you get them all wound up and then you left.
Uncle
gives
him a pile of candy and then leaves him at the house. There you go.
Yeah, it's like, come on, Paul.
Wound him up and then left him here.
So I don't think variant covers are going anywhere. I think they're badass because it gives us the ability. I own way more comic books than I should because of that too. Like there's definitely some that I have like, I could just do it right now if I wanted to. But the number of last row number ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 last row number ones right there, and I probably have more.
I was gonna say I'm looking around to see if you have like a slab in the background somewhere or something.
No, I actually I did. This is my last Ronin bin, so I have ones that I have a Schmalky bin, and I have a couple of 4 Scotty bins and 2 Ben Bishop bins. But the Ronins ended up in their own bin, including the ones by Schmalky and so on and so forth. So I probably have about 10 of last row number 1. That's $90 face value of books, right? Because they're $9 a book.
They're $9
but then some of those are Ben Bishop variants that I bought on the store, so are $20 or $30 books. So like, they're not cheap to do. And so when you get into that situation, it's artists are making more money, publishers are making more money, and LCSs are making more money. Financially, the only person that's
money. I'm still digging up Scotty Youngs I need. I can't tell how many Scotty Young auctions I watch, and then I see one I need, and I'm like, damn it. Oh, that's
the only thing that variant covers don't financially benefit is the collector.
Is the collector market.
Everybody else benefits out of the financial part of a variant cover, except for the collector. Like I said, there is some confusion on it, and I understand your diehard original comic book collectors are like, no, there's an issue. That's it. End of story. But even that though,
we don't need more.
Even that though, Paul, it's not a variant, but it's still a second issue. You have your newsstand and your direct edition. So there's still this back in the 80s and 70s where there's difference in direct edition versus
minor difference between a barcode and not a barcode.
Yeah.
Well, a good friend of the podcast, Jabron, from the Briar Patch shops here, and Jabron's an A cover only.
Yep.
If he comes in late and he doesn't usually leave a poll, he'll come in to just see what's out for the week. And he's like, all you got left's the B cover. I'm like, yeah, that's all that's left. He's like, I'll get it because it looked interesting.
Yes.
But ultimately he looks for the A covers on them.
Let me look this up. There's Nova in 1994. Yes, 1B. No. Oh, yeah. A lot of the ones that also, just to think back on the original variants, it was like foil variants and gold covers and glitter and all this other stuff.
I was just going to say, back in the 90s, I bet it was that the covers were all the same, but you had your base and you had your foil, and you may had your silver foil and gold foil. That was a big one in the early Image books. There were like Wildcats and stuff.
Yep.
These are different ones. And then I remember there was Avengers doing it. Some of those different books that I see come through here. And I got to tell you, 99% of them aren't worth.
No, they're not. The funny thing is about how we go full circle on things, that a lot of these new one per store variants or new crazy variants are gold foil or glow in the dark or those gimmicky. Yeah. I hate to use the word gimmicky because it's not it is. It's in that category of gimmicky of that. I like the connecting variants. I can see it right now, that We Don't Kill Spiders. That he did. Ben Bishop did issues 1, 2, and 3 of We Don't Kill Spiders that connect together. So that's together. A variant, but you're not only committed to issue 1's variant, you're also committed to issues 2 and 3's variant. And so those are kind of cool.
Marvel did like Venomized.
Well, they did Wastelands, 2 Wastelands that they Wastelanders, whatever it was. They had the connecting variants and the connecting variants and all that stuff. The Venomized one, they did a whole series of Marvel characters.
The whole month or 6 weeks worth of every release had a Venomized variant to it. So I was doing that for a while back in the day of trying to get all of the Venomized, and the covers were sick. Yes. And it was cool how they did different versions of Venom based on the character. So there was like a Doctor Strange where Doctor Strange looks the exact same. Most of them was like Captain America and the Venom's creeped over his face, or, the Shield's got it, or the symbiote going around it. The Doctor Strange looked the exact same, but his astral plane version was a Venomized.
That's awesome.
Which was really cool. And he was sitting like floating there. So those were sick covers. And that's a fun part of it, is it gives you the option of having different things, different releases, different books.
Well, what I was going to say is buy what you like. Like, that's the thing. It gives you the ability to buy what you like. You're not forced into buying the cover unless you're late and you didn't get it, or you didn't get on a pull list, which you should do. As you get your cover that you want and the cover that you're excited to have and collect and own and cherish. Like there's some cover A's that I just don't care about as much as I do cover B's. And, sometimes I buy both of them because I want to have both of them. But sometimes I just buy the B's because I'm like, I'm probably not even going to read that comic book anyway. I just like the cover. Right. And so it becomes a sports card at that point. It becomes a front, and that's it. And, not even a back, because it's in the back of the board, which is white. So you don't even get to see the back of it. So it's a front. But yeah, so variant, buy what you want. That's the biggest thing. But don't
collect for fun. Collect as you enjoy it.
Yes. I like to warn people. My side of it. One thing I will always say, and this is just my public service announcement, I sound like an old man now, 36-year-old old man, is don't buy anything for profit that you're not going to enjoy to own yourself. Meaning that there's a possibility you'll never make money on it. So don't buy. I'd recommend, unless you're heavily involved in this and you know exactly what you're doing, don't buy spec variant covers because you think you're going to be able to resell them for a bunch of money. I've done it twice in the past 10 years of collecting. I've collected before that, but like only buy spec books before that. And that was like, buy it, didn't know I had it, went back to the store the next day. They had another issue, bought the $4 book, sold it for $40, and was excited about it. That was it. There's times this twig that I showed you earlier, Paul. Twig. I got that on the internet for like $15 and then realized it sold for $130. I immediately sold it and was like, the only reason I sold it because I knew I was getting another one coming in the mail free from Scotty Young for being one of his Substack subscribers. But yeah, just don't go out of your way to buy these things thinking you're gonna make a bunch of money on it. Buy it because I get those
people. And as an LCS, like maybe some LCSs do that. I think my competition does. I do not. I'm not a speculator. I don't like answering spec questions because you're going to the corner store and asking which lottery ticket should I buy? Mm-hmm. Which one of these is gonna be worth something? Like, no, don't put me in that place. I'm not here for that.
Nope. So buy it because you like it, and then if you display it proudly or whatever. But like, if you get a chance to sell it, and awesome, that's part of the benefits of collecting comic books or cards or other things over other stuff that you can collect. There are definite increases and decreases in value, which is kind of cool to watch. It's a stock market of comic books.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other things you can buy. There's stupid little knickknacks that are not going to be worth anything. There's people who collect small things that are just not going to be worth anything.
Beanie Babies.
There's one of the things that you can do is comic books, and the value of the comic books are not going anywhere right now. I mean, there's certain books that are fluctuating, but yeah, collect what you want. Don't collect it because you think you're going to make money on it, in my opinion. Let the other people do that. But yeah, so
I know there are plenty who do.
So variant cover. So ask your LCS in a local area what variant covers are coming out, cool covers. Look them up online. You just Google variant covers for whatever issue book you're coming up with.
Previews World, baby.
Yep. And they have them all on there. And then see if you have a friend that's a local artist or some sort of local shop that has a store variant, because those are even cooler. So the store variants are really cool because you can buy them. It supports the store mainly. Like, do that because that's where like a lot of that money is going back into the pocket or the drawer of the store. Whereas a 1 in 100 or obviously if you buy a 1 in 500, you're still making it, but like that helps the local economy. It also helps local artists. If you
support
see a
local artists, support your friends.
Yes.
And I guess now, as we're doing this, we might as well make the announcement from Galactic Comics and Capes and Tights.
Yes.
We're bringing you our very first exclusive store variant cover supporting Joseph Smolke's work, 7 Years in Darkness, and Bob Tikuk will be doing our artwork, and Galactic Comics will have its first ever exclusive store variant cover. I'm really excited.
Very limited, so check that out because and check out the social media.
I wanted to keep it that way. I think it's cool to create some of that. So the collectability of it, as a collector, I always think it's cool. So ours will be serial numbered. We're gonna have 100 of the base, and we're gonna have only 25 metal variants.
And so the metal variants is one of the things we didn't even get into, but maybe sometime we'll get into metal variants. But metal variants are basically the cover that's metal instead of paper.
Yeah,
it's what it is. It's really cool.
Like thin steel, and they're beautiful. We've had metal variants in the store of different books, and they do present amazingly. They are like beautiful.
And if you don't have one that's literally bent, it's pretty much going to get graded at a 9.8 when you send it out to CGC.
Or potentially 10.0.
Or scratch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the danger. If they have dangers, they could scratch and things.
Yeah. But and if you have a metal variant, just a little tip. We're like loving the tips today. If you have a metal variant, it's tip. You want to get signed by an artist. The artist who is signing should know, but a paint marker is the only thing that really signs pretty well.
The only thing that will hear.
Yeah.
Yep. So, it's the only thing that's going to adhere to it.
I wanted to give Paul 3 minutes or 2 minutes to defend himself against allegations from the Bangor Comic and Toy Cons, Will and Jay, about drinking all the beer at the Bangor Comic and Toy Con. Here we go, Paul. Stage is yours.
Here we go. I am not a crook. No, wait. I did not take the beer. That wasn't me. I know it. I would, if there was anybody you were going to point a finger at, I'd point it at me too. It was not me. I had a single 4-pack dropped off from my friend, Justin. And on the way out of the con, while we were finishing packing, I yelled to Will, "You going to drink all this beer?" And he went, "Yep." And I said, "You're not drinking this one." And I took 1 4-pack. That was it. I didn't take this like mystery missing flat. Was not me.
And according to Will, if you didn't listen to the Bangor Comic and Toy Con episode, Paul basically backed his truck up and loaded cases upon cases upon cases into the back of his truck and then left. Here's another thing. Little tip to everybody.
I wish I had done that.
Will from Bangor Comic Con does not drink beer. No. So why does it even matter to him?
Nope. Will doesn't drink beer at all.
Jay does. So Jay should be the one that's mad.
Right. I drank Jay's beer at the last con. The previous one. I made it up to him.
But that's just kind of funny. I wanted to throw it out there because I talked to Paul at the shop this week, and it was like, that he kind of like threw you under the bus there for stealing some beer from the beer that owner brewing company donated. He's like,
beer? I didn't
steal any beer. I'm like, I don't know.
No, I wish I had stolen the beer. I did not. That was not. I am an innocent party in all of this. Shame.
Guess what? Paul was still invited back and will be back for the Weekend of the Wicked in September 30th through October 2nd at the Bangor Comic and Toy Cons Weekend of the Wicked in Bangor, Maine at the Cross Insurance Center. He'll be selling stuff there. Exciting stuff going on there. So BangorComicandToyCon.com for that stuff. But Galactic Comics and Collectibles in Bangor, Maine on Facebook, Instagram, whatnot. Follow him on Whatnot. He's doing Whatnot's. You're still doing probably at least one a week of something.
So we are doing one every Friday morning for comics, and I'm now been trying to work in one every Tuesday morning for action figures. So we do a Tuesday action figure one and a Friday morning Paul and Saul in the morning. You can hear our local store. Yeah, banter. My local store guy.
He is a character upon character upon character.
Absolutely. Saul comes in. And it's fun because we run it like a morning talk show. We BS about comics and life and whatever, and there's just comics on the background selling as we go.
Selling comic books, yeah. And guess what? Saul helps pay Paul's salary, so we're not going to complain too much about Saul.
No, we love Saul. Saul's crazy.
Saul is if you had a list of number one customers, he's up towards the top of that right now. So yeah. Financial at least. I'm not saying quality.
It's very fun for Saul. All you have to do is tell him that Paul Rudd's a national treasure, and his whole head turns red. He can't stand Paul Rudd for some reason.
Exactly. And I've actually Paul, if he ever listens to this, I think I've once in a while tricked him into buying a cover because I made it sound like I really wanted that cover. So he bought it. And I didn't even want anything to do with that book, but he bought it anyway. So I've helped on that side of sales like that too.
I love Saul. I think Saul has a little like FOMO there. He's afraid of missing out. Then I gotta get it.
That's why I don't think I'll ever stop collecting comic books, by the way. I literally don't think I'll ever stop collecting comic books weekly because of the fact that the number of times I haven't picked a book up on a pull list that I later on realized that I really wanted to read. We talked about the reason, the benefits of trades was like, I really wanted to read Department of Truth, and like I got onto it too late. So there's times where I've wanted to be like, Paul, I'll just take 1 through 50. Like, I'll just give me them all because I'm afraid of fear of missing out on a book that I'm eventually going to want to read, but then can't read because I've got issues 3 through 10 and numbers 1 and 2 are $500,000 a book.
You're not going to buy them and read them.
And so I've had to buy them digitally.
Which I ordered your Oblivion song this week.
There you go. Let's get the failing dead comic books to Justin. But yeah, so check out Paul's shop, Galactic Comics and Collectibles. And we didn't talk about quickly is there's also cool ones like I Hate Fairyland, and the new book that I got for a couple weeks ago now, technically because we're recording this, is I Hate This Place. And both of those have B variants that have, it says, what's it say, Fuck Fairyland, and I F This Place is what it actually says. There's asterisks on it too, but like those are kind of cool too. They have the censored version and the uncensored version of the cover as well too.
And the Scotty Young ones there of the Fuck Fairyland all have different artwork too, so you get the variant and that, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so, I'm building a solid collection of those now.
Yes, and it's hard to find the second ones. Honestly, I have a couple of them, but I don't. The F series, I call them, are a little harder to find too. It's just that was the only variant. He only did 1 or 2 other variants in the 20 issue run. There was like issue 16 had a third cover, but I don't remember why it was that way. And then there's other ones are just the cover A, cover B, the censored version and the uncensored version of the book as well. So, but yeah, that's variant covers with Paul Eaton of Galactic Comics and Collectibles in Bangor, Maine. Yeah,
support your LCS.
I'm gonna go pee.
Okay.
Thanks for talking, Paul.
Thanks, guys.